Hi everybody, I wanted to make a quick short video to help you understand your paper assignment, which is due not this Monday, but next Monday. So very quickly, let's look at what you can download, which is at the end of week 2. It says, I think it's called Paper Prompt. You get this skeleton of a paper, and what you're going to do is delete the red text and insert your own text. So, for example, the first red text you'll see in the introduction, it says, I will argue that at least on this matter, and then you need to insert what you want, right? So either that utilitarianism, Kantian ethics, or virtue ethics gets things right. And then when we go down, you'll see different sections. The introductions to each section is already written, and you need to fill in where the red text is. So, for example, for utilitarianism, you have a section where you need to just explain utilitarianism in general. Happiness good, suffering bad, maybe give an example with Robin Hood, maximize happiness, minimize suffering. You can elaborate by, if you want, saying why people think utilitarianism is true or handling an objection, whatever. Next section, distinguishing between act and rule utilitarianism. I won't go into that because I already posted a video and there's the reading. Virtue ethics, that's not the next section, but the following section. I mean, that's going to be something like, the way you would decide issues is, there's no rule, right? So it's more like, well, think about the conversation that somebody, like if you took David, Bruce, Jim Halpert, and whoever, some mature, put together people, stuck them in a room, they would think about happiness, they would think about free choice, they would think about the suffering families, they would think about the duties of a doctor, and they would, weigh these together in conversation and presumably come up with what the virtuousist is going to say. There's the right result, presuming that they're mature people. That's not, what's the guy who's terrible in Millionaire Matchmaker named Doug. If you took Doug, Dwight Schrute, and Kevin from accounting and stuck them all, in a room and had them just figure this out. They would think of the wrong things. They wouldn't be able to come to the right choice. It would be a mistake. They'd stress the wrong factors because they're not very good at human life. They're not very mature. Okay, great. Let's talk about Kantian ethics because I think that the reading from this week is a little difficult. Let me switch what I have posted here to this. Okay. The Kantians think that there's one moral rule. They call it the categorical imperative, but there are different formulations of it. The different formulations are ways of putting it that Kant thought were equivalent. They are roughly equivalent. It does not seem that they actually are equivalent, though. And usually Kantians are going to have to probably drop, the others and pick one to stick to it, and say that the other one gets close but isn't quite right. Kant himself, he gave arguments for both and then said they really come to the same thing, and then would kind of switch back and forth between the two because he thought that they were equivalent. Let's talk about what they are. So the one that the reading covers very nicely is called the formula of universal law. I'm going to put it slightly differently than Kant put it, or it's put in the reading. I think this is the best way to think about it. Only perform an act for a goal if that act type could be the universal way of accomplishing that goal type in relevantly similar circumstances. So notice right away, you can't tell that lying is wrong. You can't tell that cutting in line is wrong. You can't tell that stealing money or giving to charity, because I haven't told you the purpose, right? To judge whether something's right or wrong to do, I have to judge what you're doing and the goal, the purpose you're accomplishing it for, right? So we bring those together and we see if performing that act for that goal could be the universal way of accomplishing that goal. So for example, cutting in line, I want to cut in line, it's that thing I'm going to do. Why am I doing it? To get something I want quicker. Great. Now, could cutting in line be the universal way of accomplishing getting something I want quicker in relevantly similar circumstances? No. If everybody operated by this policy, cutting in line whenever it would get them something quicker in circumstances like mine, there wouldn't be lines, and then there would be no cutting, and it wouldn't work, right? So the idea here is the policy or principle or reason I'm proposing to act upon can't possibly be a reason, because if it's a reason for me, it's a reason for other people. And it can't be a reason for other people. It can't be a reason for everybody, because it wouldn't work. It only works because I'm treating myself as special. I'm having a double standard by how free agents, how rational agents should act, and saying, all right, you guys act that way, I'll act this different way, and then it will work because I'm the only one doing it. But I need you guys to act this other way. So the idea here is my action is parasitic on other people behaving in a different way. I think that this gets close to, the sort of fundamental point of behind the spirit of Kantian ethics is this respecting everybody's free will and their choices and the equality of their choices and their choices to lead their own life and ability to be free from their instincts and choose for themselves what sort of lives to live, to respect their ability just like you respect your own ability. And if you're acting in a way that only works if you do it and not them, I'm not treating them with that sort of respect, right? It's like when we all stand in line and none of us cut, we're all like, if I cut, it will work, but then you wouldn't be like, but then you would need to not do that for it to work. So I'm taking advantage of you. This isn't something cutting is not something we could all do. So we all stay in line, right? That's the sort of way in which we show respect to each other's wills, in that we all behave in according to a way that we restrict what we do to ways in which to behaviors that work, and to not doing behaviors which would only work if we made an exception of ourselves and we're the only one operating according to that way. Okay, the other sort of way to put the Kantian rule is called the formula of humanity. I mean, here's a way of putting it. Don't use people. Don't treat people like mere tools for the accomplishment of your goals, or allow others to treat you that way, even if the goal is good. The idea behind this is whenever I could become a firefighter, I could become a chemist, I could or I could pursue those careers, I could be a professional Halo player. None of those goals or career choices have value yet, and then I make a choice and all of a sudden it takes on value and I see it as worthwhile and I'm willing to work hard for it, push through temptation, get up in the morning, do a lot of stuff to accomplish this thing that wasn't valuable before. What made it valuable was that I chose it. So the Kantian idea here is that the way things get value in the world is I choose them, and all of a sudden I'm treating them as if they're valuable, like I'm bestowing value on them. And everything else in the universe gets its value. It filters down from those choices I make. So sunglasses become valuable if I make choices that make this useful to my goals. Scissors are a tool, right? It's because I make choices for goals which turn scissors into things that are valuable for me to accomplish my goals. So everything else in the universe is just tools, merely instrumentally valuable to accomplish the sort of intrinsically valuable things, which are the goals that I pick, right? So the goals of a free will, they get intrinsic value. Everything else is instrumentally valuable only as tools. They're just being used to accomplish the goals. But the source of all that value is my free will itself. And the formula of humanity is claiming, don't treat other people or yourself be treated like a mere tool, like a pair of scissors, whose value is only to what extent it helps me accomplish my goals. Other people's free wills, like your own, is the source of value of things like mere tools, but the value that they have is not as a mere tool. So when I lie to someone, I'm like, well, what words do I need to say to you? Sounds do I need to admit into my mouth to get you to hand me some money? And then I do that, right? That's not treating them like a fellow free will who can make choices for themselves, where I need to, if I want them to give me a haircut, I can't just be like, all right, I'm just going to lie to them, say I'm a firefighter, so they'll give me a free haircut. That's not respecting their choices like I'm respecting my own choices. I need to be like, I'll give you $10, you cut my hair. Does that seem like a good joint project for both of us? All right, you're both on board? Cool, let's execute it, right? So that would be a respectful way to engage with other people as fellow sources of value instead of treating them as mere objects to be manipulated for whatever purpose I have set for myself. I put down here is just sort of a way in which I was trying to describe why these two rules Kant thinks are the same. I mean, they're both sort of getting at the idea of respecting your own free will and that of others equally, not making an exception of yourself, that you should live by rules that everyone could live by, and not performing parasitic actions. Great. So when you're writing your paper, I just said to talk about Kantian ethics. Just pick whichever. You could talk about both of these formulations if you want. I would probably just pick, just the easier thing to do would be just to talk about the formula of humanity. Does the formula of humanity allow you to let one person die so you can get their organs to save the 5? Are you treating the person you let die merely as a tool, for the accomplishment of a goal? I'll leave that up to you to discuss. And then if you want to raise objections, so when you get to the conclusion of this paper, what the conclusion should be is basically kind of a method of elimination. You've talked about Act and Rule Utilitarianism, you've talked about Kantian ethics, and you've talked about virtue ethics. Tell me why the other 3 are wrong so that you can defend your endorsement of the 4th, right? So if you want to be a virtue ethicist, tell me what's wrong about Kant and the 2 versions of utilitarianism. If you want to be a act utilitarian, tell me what's wrong about the other 3 in your conclusion. Okay, great. I want to keep this short, so I'm going to end it right here.